We're not able to hear you though.
Yeah. Well, the recording started. Well, let me quickly introduce Praveen. Just a brief introduction from my end, right? So, Praveen is the co-founder of Factors.ai. Now, Factors is a revenue attribution tool, and we have used it ourselves with a couple of our customers as well, right? And it's pretty robust, right? If you look at any other tool, for example, even if you look at like a tool like GA, right, that does not compare at all. But then if you compare it with something like even a CRM, there's a lot of things that a CRM cannot or that just does not let us report on, and Factor just makes that very easy for us. And my personal favorite feature is that you can actually group things, and once you start using like a reporting tool, and if you're like in it day in day out, that one feature that hey, you can just report things and report on groups is like yeah, it's my personal favorite. So yeah, that's just like a very quick introduction of Factors and Praveen from my end. So yeah, anything that you'd like to add, and then we can just jump right in.
Yeah. Yeah, thanks a lot, Ishan, for those kind words. So, yeah, as Ishan mentioned, I'm one of the founders of Factors. We are a B2B marketing analytics product. Yeah, I mean, I
Let's
think maybe we
continue.
can just keep.
No,
Yeah,
let's continue. Let's continue.
yeah. So we are a B2B marketing analytics product. So we started the company in January of 2020, just before the pandemic broke out. It's not a great time to start a company and leave our corporate jobs, but somehow we have persisted and survived like cockroaches. And currently we work with 25 plus customers. Some of them include ChargeBee, O9 Solutions, some B2C companies like LiveSpace, Design Cafe, and a bunch of other B2B companies as well, like Cascade from Australia, Predictive Hire from Australia, Scarlet Events from UK. So kind of relatively broad spectrum. We do have a bunch of clients from India as well. A team of 30 people right now, working remotely, but primarily based out of Bangalore in HSR. So folks who are in Bangalore, always feel free to just ping me if there is anything that I can help with. So that's very briefly about us. I take care of product and customer success at Factors. So everything around the product, everything that is bad, definitely is my doing in the product. So that's me. Yeah. So what I'd request is if each one can very quickly give like an overview about yourself and anything that you'd want to share with me to say, hey, this is what I was looking forward to from this discussion. That would be great, so that I can just focus a session on that. Yeah. So, hey, Keshav, we can see your chat, but I don't think they're still able to hear you. Yeah.
I can start otherwise. Maybe Akatma, Shinam, would anyone of you want to just pitch in like, hey, what is something that you were looking forward to seeing in the session? So Raveen is back.
Yeah, as Ishan was mentioning, that a lot of CRM tools don't let us attribute and do all this stuff. So I want to understand if a B2B is already using a CRM, how the integrations and how the attributions can help. Yeah, that's the point.
Okay.
Saloni, maybe you. Would you like to add, hey, what were you expecting to learn from this session? I can maybe send a few messages, or I'll just forward a few things that I got in messages, right? So these people may just watch the recording instead. So when I was discussing it with a few people, right? Now, and this was a topic that you also suggested, right? ROI analysis through funnel, through understanding of funnels. Just as a marketer, one is, I think, first one question was, there was a lack of understanding of how could, let's say, if I'm a copywriter, right? How does my work really, what's the impact it makes? How does that's one. And what can I change as a performance marketer? Or what are the different aspects that I can look at to sort of, how can I analyze what change needs to be made? And how do you prioritize that? That's one. And personally, what I wanted to know is maybe just a few case studies, right, of where you sort of found some really interesting things to change. And how did you find that? What did you find, and what change did you make? And if you can share, what sort of results could you see at the end of that? So that's something I would personally be interested in knowing.
Got it. Understood. Understood.
Does anyone else want to add anything? I guess not. Yeah.
Otherwise, we can just get started. Folks, please feel free to interrupt me at any point in time. And if there are any questions, please do ask that. Right?
One more question.
Yeah.
So it's like on your website, I was just looking into your website right now, and I noticed that you are giving content marketing analytics.
Yes.
So I'm trying to understand, this is the first time, so maybe the question is if it's coming from incomplete knowledge about the tool. So content marketing analytics coming from general analytics or logged in users analytics?
No, both actually. So we
Okay.
track everything actually. So essentially, as a product, we kind of track your anonymous user activity, your known user activity whenever a user logs in or submits like any email ID through like a form or anything like that. So you'd get like everything from our product. So our primary promise is, unlike let's say a CRM which only has logged in users and GA which only has your anonymous users, it doesn't talk to the CRM. You'd be able to kind of merge the two in our product, and you can ask questions like, hey, let's look at all the folks who are in this particular lead stage. What kind of content do they consume, right? So the ability to kind of analyze data at the intersection of your website and CRM is like one of our primary sort of value propositions.
Yeah. Got it. Yeah.
So let me get started then. So just starting with behavior analysis, right? So what exactly is sort of behavior analysis, right? At a very high level, you could think of it as you are analyzing the behavior of users on all your properties. Like it could be your marketing website, it could be your inside the product, some key milestones, and it could be the interactions that a user has with your marketing campaigns outside of your website, right? Like for example, like a webinar campaign or a gifting campaign or something like that, where the user doesn't even visit the website or anything like that. So there could be a lot of offline marketing campaigns as well, and there could be sales interactions, right? So meetings, calls, etc., that happen with the sales team, right? So behavior analysis at a very high level is analyzing the behavior of these of users as they go through these touch points, and you can then kind of look at it from different perspectives, right? So if you look at a product like Amplitude or Mixpanel, they take the perspective of a product manager, and they look at this data very specifically from the perspective of how do you improve the product, which features of the product are more useful for customers, how is the retention like once the user is inside the product, etc., which is very product manager focused, right? What we do at Factors is we actually take a marketer focus on this data, and then we help marketers kind of ask a lot of questions out of this behavioral data and analyze that very, very easily, right? So at a high level, you can think of it as users are interacting with your brand, there are various interactions that they have. They visit the website, download a white paper, click on like a form, submit like a form, then click on like an ad inside a LinkedIn lead gen sort of campaign, attend a webinar. They'd be getting some email campaigns, and they'll probably reply to that, then attend a discovery call, and finally the entire sales process that happens. And we kind of track that entire thing from website to marketing automation to CRM, and give you like a single timeline of that user across the board, right? And then you can kind of ask a lot of questions of that data, which will help you kind of optimize your overall marketing effort. Now, in general, when you think of behavior analysis, most people tend to focus on these 4-5 points, right? So these are very website centric, right? So like questions like, which of our content assets, like let's say you have blogs, webinars, ebooks, a lot of content like that, and you want to see which of those assets is most impactful in converting users to schedule a demo, right? And which of these is least impactful, right? And you'd want to see that so that you can optimize the assets which are working better by promoting them like a lot more, right? So this is like one very high level question. Another question could be, for example, if you are having like a multi field form, then which step of this form is causing users to drop off? How is this different by device type, screen size, right? So that you can kind of optimize your entire form submission flow, right? Or something like, let's say you have multiple pricing plans from like a startup, scale up, grow, etc. You'd want to see which of these are most interesting to users and lead to like a sign up, right? Or why do users who visit the pricing page and spend more than 30 seconds like not progress and schedule a demo? Like what's happening to them? Why are they kind of dropping off, right? So these are some of the questions which typically comes to mind when you think of behavior analysis. And they are very important questions as well. But what I would argue is that this is only like part of the picture, right? This is all based on just the website activity. And whilst it is very important, it is only like you're only touching the surface of what you could potentially do with that data set. Having said that, some of the sort of success stories that I have seen personally that clients achieve basis very sort of rigorous analysis is on the website optimization piece itself. And one of them is, for example, a SaaS company which we work with. They have like 50 million plus ARR. And one of the things that they do was just by moving, so they had like a free trial offer, which was, so the structure of their website was they had like a pricing page. And then immediately below the pricing plans, they had like a free trial offer, right? And a lot of users were clicking on that free trial offer, which is like their startup plan, and going in for the free trial offer, even though those users, those companies qualified for their higher up plans, right? Those companies were not best fit for their startup plan. And they did something very simple, which is move that free trial tier one fold below on the website and introduced a case study immediately after the pricing page of saying, company like a $500 million company got so much benefit after using our product, and their demo form submissions like really increased, right, as compared to trial signups. And the interesting thing here is it's not just that the demo form submissions increased. As you can imagine, like demo forms go through like a completely different business workflow where you have like a qualification call and like a demo call with an account executive and so on and so forth. Vis-a-vis trial signups, you kind of wait for the user to get some value from the product. So it's a slightly sort of slower process. So this one is more proactive. And they could clearly see like the impact in the pipeline that was built in that quarter. And the only thing that they changed was introduced one trial with a case study immediately after their pricing plan, and moved the free trial offer to like one fold below, right? So that's one thing that immediately comes to my mind. Another company that we work with.
One question here.
Yeah.
So by the way, these are some of my favorite CRO examples where you have to do almost like very minimal things, and the return is really high, right? So a couple of things to note here, right? And then a question. One, moving or just adding a case study section, right, is increased probably the bottom line of the company, right? They reduced the number of people dropping off from a free trial, because if someone qualifies for a demo, they probably should get a demo. A free trial is not really structured for that kind of user, right? So they probably were losing a lot of customers there, right? Second,
precisely.
So who do you think? So who should be the person who suggests this change? Right? Like, what's their job profile would be one question, and then what are the different metrics that they see? For example, did they look at, and I'm sorry if I'm breaking the flow, and feel free to say that you'll answer these things later on. But then the second question is, okay, what did they see? Did they look at, okay, what's the nature of the people going into a free trial? Because having a high number of free trials is not a bad thing at all, right? So what did they notice when they decide that, hey, we need to move this away? Because you essentially, when you increase demo forms signups, I'm sure the free trials also dropped. So how did
Yes.
you decide, or like what did you look at, or whoever did this, or that person, if you know, looked at to make that change? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So let me answer one at a time. So on the team structure, what I have seen commonly is a structure where there is a head of demand generation, and that person is responsible for everything from the digital marketing campaigns which are driving traffic to the website, and even the conversion optimization flows on the website, right? So that kind of is housed within that same leader who heads demand generation in that company. And even the content, like the product content, right? Like all the feature pages, your solutions pages, all of your main pages on the website are also with that same leader. So in this company's case, for example, that is how they achieved close coordination between conversion optimization and everything that happens more bottom of the funnel, right? So that demand generation leader had metrics around signups, demo calls scheduled as two independent sort of metrics. The manifestation of the issue was that they were getting a lot of signups, and the signups were companies. So the sign up offer or the free trial offer that they had was like a startup plan, right? It was not meant for the bigger companies to kind of try to figure out the product by themselves, etc. They wanted like startups to be able to kind of start using the product without like a barrier. What they realized was a lot of the trial signups that they were getting were customers who would have qualified for a demo directly without having to go through that process of trial sign up and then trying to use the product by themselves, and after some point being reached out to by the inside sales team or the SDR team, right? So their main question was to say, can we bring in enough of a differentiation so that the mid-market enterprise companies whom we really want to kind of get into like a demo flow, so that we can convey the full value of the product, get to that sort of sooner. And folks who just want to try out the product, they can still figure out the free trial offer, but it is not as obvious, right? Or not as in your face, right? And that came from data to say, after pricing page, why are people kind of not, so you have these demo buttons in the pricing page, why are people not doing that and still going for a trial sign up? And they realized that the key flow was this one tile in between, which kind of called out in very obvious terms that we have like we are very startup friendly and we have a free trial offer. And a lot of these larger companies were just clicking on that and kind of signing, right? So that was the entire sort of thesis from a org structure perspective, and how did they come to this as like a problem. In terms of what really happened, yeah, I mean, see, ultimately both are good, right? You're getting demo forms and you're also getting people for trial sign up. It is just a question of how the process is set up internally to handle each of this. So demo forms, obviously there is like a lot of focus on calls, there's a lot of rigor on meetings booked, and these are all like meetings which happen and follow up on that and so on and so forth. Vis-a-vis free trial, I think it is a much more self-serve sort of an experience. So you're waiting for the user to kind of engage, right? And get to a stage where they again raise their hand to say, now I want to talk to like your sales team, right? So it just takes a bit longer. And at least for this company, they thought that at least the larger sort of fit customers, it would be better if they went in through like a demo flow rather than like a trial sign up flow, because the engagement would be higher, right? Like, and when you're booking a demo, there is a meeting being booked on your calendar. So generally people tend to not miss those meetings. So those were the reasons, and they had pretty large drop-offs after trial sign up. Like people would just click on the trial sign up and go inside, but they don't take any meaningful action or don't hit like a meaningful milestone, and then they just drop off the full process, right? So hence they kind of prioritize the demo flow, at least for good fit customers. They wanted to kind of promote the demo flow a lot more than the trial sign up.
Just one last point and I'll shut up here. But so an analysis like this, right? It may seem that it's better done in-house, usually, right? And in most cases it is. But then when you are doing something like this in-house, right? Uh, since you're so used to how things are done, it's also very difficult to do it in-house, right? So, and I'm just saying this for the people, we don't offer this as a service from our own agency, but there are other people who are from agencies or there are freelancers here. I'm just telling you that services like these are very valuable to to any company. And if you're actually able to do this well, right, when you come in from an external consultant perspective, you have an external view of the company, you can see everything from a new lens, and that becomes very valuable looking at stuff like this. Otherwise, just the fact that you have to look at this data is not obvious, right? Just something that I just want to point out, right? So if you are looking at a freelancer or an agency, definitely think about, if you can use this as a service and offer this as a service, because you can make a lot of money doing this, and if you do something like this right.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with that. So like essentially the challenge with an in-house sort of solution is you get used to the ways in which you've always worked. So you have like one dashboard in Tableau or HubSpot, and that's like the only thing that let's say a lot of people are kind of focused on. And some of this requires some sort of investigative sort of spirit or some sort of diagnostic approach to kind of figure out. And most companies end up doing it very infrequently. And what happens is over time, as you keep making changes to your website, there's always going to be some room for optimization. Just that somebody would have to kind of think of it from that perspective and look at it on a regular basis. So one option is having like a in-house person only focused on this, but that may be too much of a investment for a very early stage company. The other option is to kind of get folks who have done this repeatedly in other roles, so that they bring a lot of expertise. So completely agree with that, right? Couple more use cases that come to my mind are another client of ours. They simply had this challenge of saying, I have a lot of content which we have published over the last, let's say, 3 to 4 years, right? And when I say content, I mean like your product pages, feature pages, solutions pages, blogs, etc. And the key use case they had was to say, hey, what should I prioritize for? Like, because many of this has aged quite a bit, even from a design perspective, like the illustrations that you have, or even the content and the wording, etc. Right? And what they wanted to do was just pick up this content for just kind of refresh it and make it more relevant for now, because as most of you know, it's far easier to refresh existing content and make it perform as compared to coming up with like a completely new piece of sort of content, right? And at this point, they had this simple question of, okay, I got this 100 pieces or 200 pieces of content. Now, what should I prioritize, right? Now, you don't want to go just by age of content. You want to look at the impact that content has on demos or any other metric before you kind of proceed, right? And one way is just to look at the impact on demos or trial signups. Another is to look at what is that impact of that on opportunities created and pipeline, right? So you can really see that, okay, fine, these content pieces really work in terms of getting a lot of our demos. So that was like the second use case, to kind of look at this user behavior and figure out which content is to be prioritized, right? The third use case here was, again, just optimizing the first tile of the landing page. And just kind of like what this client realized was most users were not browsing beyond like 25 to 30% of the page, and they had a lot of impactful content which was kind of below the fold, right? And they tried a lot of techniques, animations, etc., to kind of get users to scroll below, which they were not able to kind of achieve. And finally, they had to just kind of completely redesign the first tile to make it much more impactful, right? It was like a simple sort of CRO use case. And the fourth one was just reducing form fields and testing out different CPAs, right? So one of my clients was actually able to double the demo submissions. They are a pretty small company. They're just less than 2 million in ARR. And the key thing that they did was just optimize the form, remove fields that were not relevant, change the CTAs, aligned the design with the overall brand design, made it look like a form which was more native rather than like an external form. And they were just able to, just by doing this, they were able to kind of double the conversion rates on the website, right? Now, so I know some of these look kind of too good to be true, but I'm pretty sure you guys would agree that these are like sort of good investments, and it's one of those taxes which most of us are paying, but we are not kind of aware of, right? So there's a certain sort of performance of the website, but you could do like a lot more. Now, was there any question in between? Like I heard some things on the chat window, so I just checked. Oh, okay, sorry.
If there are any questions, I'll let you know. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, as I mentioned, these are all like website optimization use cases, right? And I believe these are generally more familiar with most marketers, even though, as I said, it's relatively sort of difficult to do on a regular basis because you'd need like some sort of focus to kind of do that, right? In a B2B context, though, you can actually there is a lot more value in this data, and there are a lot of analysis which our clients do, which they find valuable, right? So forget like just the demo form submission, right? Like you can, one thing that you should look at is post the demo form and before like the discovery call, what content do users consume the most, right? This will give you a sense of what are the key questions that users have before when they are preparing for attending that discovery call with you. And you can then kind of give those inputs to your SDR team to say, hey, this is what users who have submitted a demo form, between that and a discovery call, this is what they seem to kind of focus a lot more in terms of consuming content. And these should be your talking points, right? Or these should be the key things that you should kind of focus on, right? And then you can look at, is consuming like some specific case study or some sort of specific value proposition much more, correlated with having like a good discovery call, right? And then you can kind of, again, give your SDR team those talking points to kind of ensure that you're really giving value to that user when that discovery call is happening, right? Or let's say even more mid of the funnel, once you get into, let's say, qualified leads to sales qualified leads, right? Now, a lot of marketing teams tend to focus on the acquisition piece till like a demo is scheduled. But there are a lot of other marketing activities that happen in between. And one way, many of these nurture campaigns, once set up, are, again, very infrequently sort of modified. One way that you'd want to kind of look at this is on an ongoing basis, what marketing campaigns are helping us convert MQLs into SQLs, right? So once a person becomes an MQL, what is helping us convert them into sales qualified leads or opportunities, and kind of, again, ensure that your nurture sequences are rightly structured. Another thing that you can look at is look at this by industry, right? So here is where, as I said, like, so Google Analytics has all of this data on who are the users, how many users visited your blog. The problem is, if you wanted to kind of cut it by something like, let's look at it by industry, which is there in CRM, right? So you want to see if the company industry is fintech, are they more likely to consume blogs or webinars, right? So this is where the fact that these data sets are kind of siloed in terms of the website data remains in like GA, but your CRM data remains in Salesforce or HubSpot, and they don't really kind of talk to each other very well, kind of makes it very hard, right? So imagine you could create segments in GA based on any CRM property, like the company industry or job title of the user, so that you can really understand what kind of content resonates with various audiences that you have, right? Or even things like saying our accounts where we have more than 2 or 3 users who are researching on the website, much more likely to convert to like a closed one opportunity as compared to others, right? So in a B2B context, there is a lot more that behavior analysis can give you. In addition to the website conversion optimization, you can really kind of help tailor a user's or a prospect's journey based on their industry, based on their job title, help improve internal workflows by talking to your SDR team and AE team to say these are the kind of things that users are doing on the website in between these life cycle stages. So that seems to be what they really care about, so that these talking points come up in your internal sort of discussions as well, right? And yeah, so that's the advantage of having all of your website, marketing automation, CRM data in like one place, so that it's kind of easier to kind of analyze. I'll just take a pause here just to see if there are any sort of questions. All right, I'll just proceed then. Now, what I have now covered is like some simple examples of in real life, right? And I'll also kind of go through this purely for the my own website, like the Factors website, right? So the first example of behavior analysis is, so if you wanted to look at like, so when you look at behavior analysis for a B2B company at an account level, like the base view can be something like this. So imagine that you have an account called Wayne Enterprises, and you have, let's say, 4 users like Bruce Wayne, Alfred Pennyworth, Lucius Fox, and Harvey Dent, right? And like, this is like a base view of saying for each user, what happened, what did they do at various times. And you can overlay some milestones at an account level over here saying, when was the opportunity created? When was the opportunity closed, right? Now, this is obviously at an individual account level. So I see a lot of clients using or looking at views like this, especially if you are selling very high ACV deals, right? So I have one client from Europe who sells like a 300K deal at the, like their lower end deals are like 200 to 300K, and then it goes to like millions, right? Now, at that point, what they care about is each and every deal, and they go to this level of depth to kind of look at every user and every deal to understand what they should kind of do next for that particular account. Now, in a situation where the deal sizes are, let's say, more around sub 50K or sub 25K, then this may be like, kind of infeasible to do at scale, because you have a lot of accounts and then like a lot of users. So that is where more aggregated sort of analysis comes in. But at a base level, to achieve that data foundation, what you would want is click on an account, look at each user, and look at everything that they did, everything from web sessions to email opens to webinar registration, and likewise for each user. And once you have this data, you can then aggregate it and give it like different views, right? Now, one challenge again with most sort of CRM solutions is that they give this at a contact level, at an account level. It's generally kind of harder to kind of put this view together. And secondly, the aggregated analysis in terms of building funnels and so on are generally kind of hard to do, right? But yeah, like this is like a gold standard that you would want to kind of achieve eventually, at least for your higher value deals. Now, the second one is obviously the time-tested concept of funnel reporting. So you can define like a funnel report with 3 stages or 4 stages or 6 stages. And you would want to kind of, build like a funnel to see what are the drop-offs at various stages, right? Now, here again, one of the pitfalls of a solution like Google Analytics is the fact that you actually have to build a funnel first, and then they will start collecting data about that funnel on a going forward basis, which is almost like saying you need to be clear about all the kinds of funnels that you would want to analyze ever and configure it. Because if you wanted to kind of look at a funnel for which you are kind of thinking about now, you can only see the data going forward, right? So you have to wait for like a week or a month to have enough data for you to make any decisions, right? So that's almost like a month of lost time in terms of optimization. So funnel reporting is another sort of tried and tested sort of approach. One thing I would suggest is the ability to kind of do this funnel reporting at a user level, which is how many users are moving through this funnel, and also doing this at an account level, right? Saying how many accounts are kind of progressing through this funnel, given that a lot of the focus now is moving towards more account-centric sort of marketing rather than user-centric marketing, right? So an ability to look at account transitions and user transitions would be one good sort of plus when you are looking at these sort of reporting. The second would be looking at website data, product data, marketing automation data, and CRM data, all as like a continuous stream of events, so that you can then kind of see if a person views our pricing page before the discovery call, then are they more likely to kind of attend the discovery call, or questions like that, which otherwise are generally very hard to answer if you have your website data, which is very siloed from your product data, right? Or your CRM data. And a lot of companies today that have like product-led sort of funnels, they again want to kind of figure out how to merge your website data and product data in like one place, so that you can kind of analyze this end to end, right? And obviously another a good to have functionality would be an ability to kind of filter and break this down by source, region, country, so that you can kind of look at these funnel reports by various cuts of data with filters and breakdowns, and with also the ability to measure like velocity and how fast people are moving through this funnel, right? Now, the problem with funnels, the caution that I'd also give is that generally, when you're defining a funnel, you are kind of imposing your view of how users should move through your sort of website, and then kind of trying to see how is it really happening that way. But so there's sort of some amount of judgment bias, I'd say. So you expect that this is the primary sort of funnel, and you would set that report up, but maybe there's an alternate path that users are taking, which you are not even aware of, right? So that's one flaw with funnel reporting in general. But even with that, I think it's like a very powerful sort of reporting solution, right? Yeah.
Praveen, so there are a couple of questions, right? So I think this is something I'll start with the second question that we got, right? The second question that we got was how would you really explain the difference between user-focused marketing versus account-based marketing? This is asked by Akanksha, right? So yeah, let's let you take that one.
Yeah. So let's say you're trying to do something like, okay, how many users downloaded a white paper, and then how many of them got added to an opportunity, and you would get added to an opportunity, or got to like a certain life cycle stage, like a SQL or something like that, right? And you would get, let's say, a number saying, let's say 200 people downloaded this very important asset that you have on the website, which you're promoting heavily, and 47 of them became like a SQL, right? Now, another view of the same data is those 200 users, which are the accounts that they are part of, right? Were these 200 users
accounts is basically companies.
Companies, yeah. So yeah, I was using the Salesforce terminology of accounts, but yeah, in HubSpot it will be called companies. So when you look at it from a company perspective, you would see probably that these 200 white paper downloads that you got were from 140 accounts in your CRM. And of those accounts, how many of them actually got to like an opportunity creation stage? You can then break it down further by saying how many of them are our target accounts vis-a-vis how many of them are accounts which are not in our target account list, but are still coming like inbound, right? Because in companies where you also have like a very ABM centric motion, marketing team's goals are bifurcated into engagement driven for target accounts, whilst inbound, which is inbound acquisition, is like a separate sort of thing, right? Like if you do a lot of inbound acquisition but you're not able to drive target account engagement, that may not be like a great place, right? So these are the reasons why I think moving to an account level kind of helps.
So just to reiterate what Praveen already said, right? So account based is basically we are targeting companies, and we're looking at companies, because in B2B, we essentially, whenever you create an ICP and all of that, the first level of the targeting that you create is based on which companies do you want to run ads to, or which companies do you want to sell to, basically, right? So even setting your reporting is, when your reporting is aligned to that, then you can see that, hey, are we achieving that or not, is very, very crucial. Now, the major difference, that's it, right? Only the reporting, one side is seeing companies and how many people from one company have come to us, versus in user focused, we're just looking at how many people came to us. Now, the two things that Praveen already mentioned that are very different in these two, right? One, in account based, even if the right company, let's say if I want to sell to Factors.ai, even at some point of time, if Factors never schedules a call with me, if they have come to my website, I will be a happy person, because I know that, hey, now they know about us, right? So because of that, even engagement from the right company becomes something that we should sort of be, as marketers, that can become a target, and that's one major thing. And the second is closer communication with the sales team, which Praveen mentioned, that hey, there's a target account list, right? So there is already a list of companies that you want to target, and you work really closely with the sales team, and then try to close the same accounts that the sales team wants to close. So everyone's happy. There's less fights, basically.
Yeah, yeah. Like something as simple as, let's say you have like a big event coming up, let's say 30 days down the line, and you've started promoting that on LinkedIn and other forums to kind of get people to sign up for that event, right? Having the ability, not just looking at saying 27 people have signed up till now, but imagine that you are able to kind of see that of the 27 people that have signed up, they are from 20 accounts. 15 of those accounts are in our target account list, right? So it gives you like a lot more richness into saying, okay, we seem to be promoting to the right set of people. As compared to that, you got, let's say, 27 registrations and one person is from your target account list. You probably want to take a pause and see where you're kind of going wrong in terms of how you're promoting this sort of webinar, because of which you're not getting enough engagement from your target accounts, right? So having all of that sort of nuance, like you'd be able to kind of see campaign, so many users registered, etc. But being able to kind of slice and dice it to say what job titles are we getting, what are they from target accounts, etc., would kind of help you understand this like better.
Yeah. So I'll go to the second question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I know we'll break your flow a bit. I hope you're okay with that.
No problem. No problem. That's fine.
Yeah. The second question, I'll add a bit of my own aspect to it as well, right? The second question is, how do we decide which content pieces to use? Now, since this is a behavioral analysis, the topic of behavioral analysis, we can assume that there is existing data, but then with or without using factors would be the question, right? Like even if we had to sort of figure out which type of content should we use, maybe even if we have something like a simple thing, let's say just a GA or just a CRM, how do we take that decision? Is question number one, and maybe then I can come to question number two after this.
Yeah, so see, I think at a high level, which content is helping you get website signups or demos, I think that would be very, very possible with just GA, right? So you can have a conversion goal for sign up or demo, and then you can see which content is giving you that. The challenge essentially becomes when you want to look at, hey, which content is giving us more of our enterprise customers, right? Or customers in our scale-up plans as compared to like our startup plans. Or let's say that you have a focus on a specific industry vertical. Like let's say you're a $10 million SaaS company, you've already cracked one vertical. Now you're going to crack, now you really want to crack this other vertical, which is like up and coming for you, right? So imagine that during the pandemic time, like EdTech was one vertical that everybody wanted to go after, right? Like education technology, because those companies were really growing, right? Now, if you want to kind of slice and dice it to say, okay, fine, let's just look at EdTech and see what's working for us. That is where it generally becomes challenging because GA only has your website data, right? And at that point, you'd have to kind of, one way to do it is just kind of look at some EdTech customers and kind of look at like a timeline view sort of a thing in HubSpot to kind of get a sense. But to truly analyze it, I think generally, you would have to build some internal solution or use a product like ours.
Saloni, does that answer the first part of your question? Like, just about types of content and the placement on the website. Does that answer the type of content, or do you have a follow-up question there? Let us know. The second part of Saloni's question, right, was how do we decide where to place the content pieces on the website? Is there some kind of analysis that we can use? Do you think that is, and to do this, is behavioral analysis the right thing to use for that?
Yeah, so yeah, that is actually very debatable, right? Like, I mean, see, the problem there is you have two different sort of very justified sort of points of view. One point of view is from a product marketing perspective to say, this is the kind of content, this is how the product should be talked about, or this is how the website structure should be, because these are the main features, or these are the main value propositions of our product, which a product marketing team has actually come up with after like a lot of research and user interviews and customer interviews to say, this is what's kind of really working, right? I would generally say go by the judgment of the product marketer in terms of how the value proposition of the product should be conveyed, what should be that top level ribbon structure. When you click on product, what comes up in that ribbon, right? Or when you click on solutions, what comes up there. Having said that, I think it's always good to test that against actual data to say, hey, this is what we are doing right now, but maybe it is that something that you've placed fifth or sixth in that ribbon, that's really impactful from the perspective of users who are actually signing up for a demo, right? Now, if you find something counterintuitive like that, I think I don't know. I wouldn't advise saying just let's focus on the numbers and completely rearrange the ribbon and the drop downs on the website, because there is probably like a narrative that a product marketing team would want to kind of convey. But I think these would be very good signals for a product marketing team to balance against their own user research to say, okay, this is interesting, so maybe we should spend some time on this and rework that ribbon. So that's what I would suggest, right? Because dynamically optimizing it, at least your main navigation, I think would be hard. One place where I think dynamic navigation definitely makes sense is in your resources page, where you have like a resources section. I think a lot of people go by most popular and recently released as like the main sort of ways in which you can organize the content. I think there is definitely room to kind of make that more intuitive to say, for companies from this industry, this is what's worked in the past, and this is how we should dynamically sort of organize it. Vis-a-vis for some other companies, we should do it differently, right? So I think the resources section, there is a lot more room to be data driven, but I think the main website navigation, etc., it's probably, this should be like a strong input for a product marketing.
Yeah, I love this answer way too much. Yeah, because I'm an analytical marketer, and Saloni, let us know if this answers your question. So I myself am like a more number driven person, and I keep forgetting that, hey, I need to think of the narrative, or when I'm like too in the numbers, I sort of forget that personally. Right? So I need someone to sort of pull me back and say that, hey, no, there is a narrative that needs to be followed. Just don't only look at numbers. Yeah.
I think otherwise it might just become too like you don't really know, like the message might get lost, right? Like it might just be hard to kind of have like a coherent narrative if you only go by automation over there. Yeah, I think that's one thing. Now, so one of the issues that I mentioned with funnels is the fact that you're already defining what the funnel should be and then kind of tracking users' movement. So a third type of reporting, which obviously people use, is flow analysis or path analysis. And again, there are two primary modes of visualization of this data. One is like a sunburst sort of a diagram, and the other is the whole I'm not sure what Sankey chart sort of a diagram, right? I personally favor the one on the left side. I find that to be much more intuitive to kind of analyze. But I know a lot of marketers who favor the right one because that's far more predominant in tools like GA, right? Like, but I've always had like a problem kind of navigating through a Sankey diagram like this. So here again, you can kind of look at, let's say you can define, rather than defining a specific funnel, you will say, I'm interested in these 10 sort of events, and I just want to see how users are navigating through them. And then you can look at all possible sort of combinations in which users are going through that, right? And it's again a very powerful sort of technique. Only problem here is at some point it reaches information overload. So you want to kind of use it judiciously. Like this one is, I'd say, easier to analyze, easier to make decisions, but it can also lead to some blind spots. This one, for example, has like a lot more data, but like harder to make, not very easy on the eye, and harder to make like narrow focused sort of decisions, right? So this is like another sort of way to look at behavior analysis. Now, the other, and this one is something which is like very specific to our product, right, in Factors. So here what we do is we try to kind of collapse the path analysis to say, you want to look at all the people who have submitted like a demo form, and you want to see if they go to like any specific piece of content, are they more likely or less likely to convert? So rather than tracing every path, we can give you like a scorecard like this saying, so in this case, for example, I've actually taken this from our own, my own product to say, of all the people who visited the Factors website, only 2.9% of the users went to the pricing page. And on the left side are all the things that work for us. So people who go to these particular landing pages, I can see like a 40% chance that they'll go to like a pricing page. Now, on the right side, unfortunately, in my sort of product, there are a lot of like application events, staging events, etc., which get fired. So like if you purely instrument this for a marketing website, what you'd get to see on the left side are all the content pieces which really work and all the content pieces which don't work, right? So it's a very simple what's in green, what's in red on left and right. Very easy to kind of navigate sort of a view. So essentially think of this as going through every possible point here and looking at saying if a user reaches this particular section, are they much more likely to reach your end state? And our product kind of does that analysis for you and gives this outcome, essentially kind of helping you make decisions sort of faster. Now, the last thing that is also important from a behavior analysis perspective is just looking at it over time, right? So again, for example, in this case, I've taken a real example of how many people have gone to like a pricing page of the Factors website. And we have this Insights tab over here. You just click on this Insights tab and automatically what we'd be able to do is kind of tell you there is a 40% overall increase in visits to pricing page. And then it kind of explains what is causing this increase, right? Like by browser, by OS, by channel, by all of these dimensions. It tries to explain that this is what's kind of causing like an increase in visits to like pricing page, right? So one thing is an ability to track a behavior, and the other is analyze how that behavior has changed over time and get to like a root cause of why it is increasing or decreasing, and doing that very effortlessly in a matter of like 1 or 2 clicks, right? So yeah, I think we are coming up on time as well here. So these are some of the things that I'd say when you're looking at behavior analysis. So if I had to kind of summarize, the baseline is getting a view of an account and all the users and getting the data in this form, like in one place. Second is ability to run funnel reports at a user level, account level, across website, product, marketing automation, CRM, etc., with the ability to do filters, breakdowns, and so on. Third is avoid blind spots in funnels through flow analysis. So look at flows which you are not kind of very, you may not be aware upfront that such a flow is happening. So a flow analysis sort of a feature will help you understand that. Then look at ways in which you can automatically get to what are the key influence points, what are the key campaigns, key actions that users are taking, which are very influential. And whenever a behavior is changing, which is your demo forms are increasing, decreasing, trial signups are decreasing, the ability to kind of get to that root cause as effortlessly as possible, right? I think with these 5 things, just analyzing your entire users and accounts journey becomes like very easy. And that would kind of, help you optimize not just your website, but your business processes inside, your nurture sequences, the content promotions that you're doing, and so on and so forth as well. Let me pause here. I'd be happy to take any questions anyone has.
I have one question, right? So let's say, so all of these can be done very well again by the internal team, right? Let's say if I'm coming in from an external perspective and you had to say, hey, these are the 2 or 3 questions, and at least one of them try and keep it more towards content marketer, for a content marketer or copywriter. what are the top 3 things that an external marketer should look at in a company, whether or not they have a tool like Factors or can ask for information for?
Yeah, so I think the conversion optimization flows, I think, are like obvious, right? Like so that I think like the main website navigation, I think a lot of people still spend significant time on that, because obviously that's very impactful. I think looking at the resources section, right? Like all your blogs, how are they ordered? How are they sequenced? Like for example, any sort of relatively large SaaS company that you go to, you'd have like a bunch of sort of white papers that they have or webinars that they have, right? Now, how do you order that is, I think, still like a very important sort of thing, right? And you can have like a static order. You can go by recently released or most popular, or something like by industry. You can have like different sort of ordering based on. So today, I think people are doing simple filters to say by industry. I just filter by some tag and kind of show what is there. But if you can become more intelligent about that, I think that is one thing which can have like a lot of value immediately.
Yeah, I think that
Like,
that
and
was
it
great.
may not, yeah, it may not be something that you do like every week either. It could be even like you can start off with like as part of your initial sort of site audit or client audit, you can kind of do that. And then after that, maybe you do that like once a quarter or something like that as well. Right?
Got it. Yeah. We're up on time, so it's wrapping it up. Thank you so much for joining and taking the session, right? I'm sure like even if like 1 or 2 people here, right, if you're able to implement a couple of things that we discussed, that's going to be, once you see these things in action, or when the first time you do it and it works, you get hooked on it. And this is one of those things, right? If there's, yeah, I mean, this is one of the things that make you love marketing. So if you take any point from here, you're able to implement it and see the results, right? I promise you, you're going to fall in love with marketing even more. So yeah, thank you so much for taking the session again, Praveen. Thank you for joining, everyone. If you enjoyed it, please, in the group, if you're part of Marketers Nexus in the group, just let people know what they missed out, right? And yeah, we'll probably have another session really soon. I think the next one is on how to run profitable B2B podcasts. So hey, if you're interested, we'll soon share a link for that as well. Yeah, thanks again, Praveen, and I'll share a link to connect with Praveen on LinkedIn, right? In the group, I'll share it via email, and also in the recording, I'll be adding this. If you're into the recording, it's going to be in the description.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Ishan, for the opportunity. Thanks everyone for joining in, and yeah, please feel free to just ping me on LinkedIn. And yeah, look forward to being engaged. Bye bye.